Hi there, Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst, April 4th, 2023, 3 weeks and change away from the NFL draft. This is our podcast, The Deep End, here on the Player Profiler Network. We'll have a guest tonight that Player Profiler fans and hopefully most draft enthusiasts, that's tough, are aware of. Cody Carpentier will join us. Adam and I have each prepared 3 rookies, and here are what we are going to say are our favorite landing spots for those guys. And then Cody can hopefully, he can tell us where we're wrong. So we've got that. We'll look at a draft board that I had from last night, get Adam's scrutiny, because we're drafting all the time. It's kind of what we pride ourselves on. We're in games. We're playing high stakes. And if you are too, we want to be right for you. Funny thing, the last thing Adam says before he hits the button and we go live is, let me just get the Sharks ready. All right. Right now is when we find out if the Sharks are indeed ready. Mike and Adam, this is The Deep End.
Sharks are ready. Sharks are always ready. Come on.
The Sharks are always ready. Are you ready? You're playing hurt today.
Yeah, this is so cliche, but this is the MJ flu game right here, and this is what every adult and male in their 30s says when they're sick and working. Oh, it's the MJ flu game today. But yeah, woke up, the stomach bug is ripping our house to bits right now. So I'm glad this is done remotely, or I don't know if you'd even want to do it.
I guess the flu game replaced Willis Reed, R.I.P., the late Willis Reed. Why does it have to be basketball? I don't know why it has to be basketball.
Who knows?
But, I'm older than you, and Willis Reed was the reference. But, same thing. A little bit of a illness in Adam's house, but thanks for making it work tonight. Again, Cody Carpentier coming up. Before we do that, last night, you know the feeling. It's kind of late. Everybody's gone to bed, but it's not quite too late for us. So let's cram a draft in. Went and did a $35 best ball at FFPC. I saw that it was about to fill, and it did fill. So we had a draft last night, and want to show it to you. A couple of things that are interesting from this draft. Every draft has something. You've got the screen there. Maybe we can take a look at that. I am team 9, so the Bijan Robinson team. I was thinking about Ekeler actually went in this draft already, but we each picked a couple of guys that were basically not drafting at all. I'm 25 drafts in. Yeah. And Ekeler is scary for me. He had gone here in this draft. Derrick Henry, I know, is somebody like that for you. And I wouldn't be taking Derrick Henry either. So, you skate through, and I don't have those guys on this team. Robinson versus Barkley, Adam.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. Talk about landing spots later on. But I want to lean Robinson just because he's younger. But that doesn't always mean. I mean, Barkley's he's not old. And Theo actually talked about last year about how the best running backs weren't all the first and second year guys. He had some experience there behind those guys. So I kind of, me, I love Barkley. I want to see what the Giants do in the draft. Can they add on the offensive line? Can they add at the skill positions so that they're not double teaming Barkley? I mean, Barkley ran some routes out of the backfield last year. He was double teamed by 2 linebackers. We have to get rid of that. But long story, I'd probably lean Bijan. And listen, this isn't our only draft. We talk about this every week.
Right.
Go 50-50. Go Bijan this time or whatever, and Barkley next time.
I think in these independent best ball leagues, stacking is almost irrelevant. That's probably something that data would or would not support, and I don't have that in front of me to show you. But that's been my act when it comes to these, again, not tournaments, independent best ball leagues. How important is that upside? I mean, you certainly will have advocates for both. In this draft, though, I was happy to get Aaron Rodgers, assuming Jets in the middle rounds, to put with Garrett Wilson. What didn't happen for me in this draft, and I'll scroll down to show you the rest of it, is tight ends. So there's Kyle Pitts in round 4, 1 pick after George Kittle. But I got here to it's 28 rounds. This is a kicker and defense draft. There's Isaiah Likely in round 16, and we are still only at 2 tight ends here going late. So had to get to 4 on this team. Uzama, Jets, and Jonnu Smith. I don't know. Is that a mistake? I'm probably a little bit deeper the other way around, wide receiver, if not running back too. But I guess I got caught a little bit there, Adam.
Yeah, that can happen, especially in tight end premium. But I don't think you can ever go wrong with taking. It's much easier to catch up on tight end, I think, than it is at like quarterback, because there gets to a point where like there's just no quarterbacks left that are going to see any time unless there's an injury or something, or unless they win like a job or something. Whereas tight end, you can sneak in, a touchdown here or there. Was it Zylstra? He was the guy you had to have last year. You had Zylstra in the 20th round for the Lions with they have a 3 touchdown performance. But yeah, I think you can always catch up at tight end a little later on if you take 3 or 4.
Have you drafted him ever?
No, he's a guy I'm actively avoiding, Mike. I don't like.
It's round 5. I'm not taking Shane Zylstra. He is still number 1 on their depth chart, I think. I was thinking about Miami at tight end yesterday when with Gesicki gone. I'm like, what are they going to do there? And only a few minutes after I looked that up, they announced a contract extension for Durham Smythe. So I guess it's Smythe, and there's another guy there too, but of course. But you have a couple teams there where maybe they're not in teams that are going to use the tight end in the passing game very often. Certainly not 12 personnel teams, but I don't know. Detroit had TJ Hawkinson. He's gone. There's a void there. Maybe you'll see some of these rookie tight ends that we're pretty about land on teams where Hawkinson, who left Detroit, Gesicki in Miami, other examples too. They fill those voids. Maybe.
Yep. I like that.
So George Kittle, if you see him in round 4 on this board, 1 pick before my pick of Kyle Pitts, I would have picked Pitts over Kittle in most situations. And Kittle is also somebody you're not drafting. What's the case against him for you?
It's kind of the case it's been kind of every year. Last year was, ended up as tight end 2 last year. It's been a top 5 tight end. So I think I know it's kind of crazy to say, a guy I'm avoiding, but I just feel like it's not even necessarily where he's at in the tight end rankings. It's just kind of where he's at in the draft. Right here, he's going in the early 4th. According to Fantasy Mojo, you can get him. He's going really mid third is where he's going there around the Hawkinson range. So, I'd rather have Devonta Smith, Higgins, all those guys over Kittle. He's going to be 30 this year. And again, he plays like an offensive tackle, and he's going to miss games. Last year, he played 15 of 17. Year before, he played 14. So year before, he played 8. So, he's going to miss games. I don't like that. And then the quarterback, like, I don't know who's playing quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do as far as what the rapport is going to look like. So right now at this point, I would rather not take Kittle and just kind of take some of the other skill guys that are going around him, and then wait and get like even a little bit longer and get like a Dallas Goedert, which is slightly longer. But even David Njoku, I like a couple rounds later.
You want to elaborate on your other guy, Henry, is someone you're not drafting, or could we just look up any, fantasy football show anybody has done in the last 4 years and understand the reasoning?
Well, it's so funny. They're like 9 out of every 10 shows are like, well, I'm not taking Derrick Henry for all the reasons everybody uses. He's banged up. The offense stinks. Like they're running him into the ground. But then there's like that one guy that's like, I don't care if I'm taking Henry no matter what. So it's a very polarizing player. But I'd like to see Henry get the heck out of there. Now I know that'll probably never happen because he's like a staple on the team and the community and all that. But yeah, he's just an absolute monster. It's funny if you go to the player profiler page on Derrick Henry, his best comp is Zangief, the Street Fighter character, which, Mike, I know you're probably not familiar. I don't know if you're a big Street Fighter guy.
No, I have. I'm used to be, but no, the site is great for that. You have to sort of, if you know some of those, the graphics and the faces. I was in a bar Friday night in the bathroom, and it was one of these bathrooms where people have written on the stalls, on the walls for many years, and there it was in big letters. I'm always drafting Derrick Henry, and then a phone number underneath. I don't know.
Right. No matter what.
I would have been tempted had it been someone else, but fantasy football. But somebody's always drafting Derrick Henry. Questionable. Sure. I mentioned Ekeler. Just like there's so many strikes against. What's the Bull case is he's amazing, but age, size for his age, touchdown efficiency. There's a contract dispute. I just can't give you my vote. I mean, in the middle of the first round, I'm always on someone else. I'll have to mix some Ekeler in, but he's at 109, probably going down a little bit. It seems Robinson, Barkley. I love the second. Kenneth Walker. Much rather do the 2v2 with A.J. Brown and a Walker or whoever it happens to be than Ekeler and the reverse and wide receiver. So it's risky, but he's somebody that I'm pretty much off. Dalvin Cook is my other one, and that's just obvious, I think. Even in that draft we looked at, end of round 4, ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who got paid. Like, I have never in my life maybe drafted David Montgomery, but I've been burned. And I don't know, Cook, again, age, injury history, cap consideration cut consideration rather for Minnesota because of the cap and everything, and just they signed Madison. I think Minnesota is sort of, if Cook is there, then he's there. But if he's not and the money makes you wonder, then that's a team where there should be a rookie in that backfield that's relevant. I think Minnesota is a fun team for one of these day 2, even day 3 running backs that we're going to talk about. We'll start doing that next. Cody Carpentier will join us, Mike Shope and Adam Krautwurst here on The Deep End. But first, a word from our sponsor.
People always ask me, hey, what is the World Series of fantasy or the Super Bowl of fantasy football? And it's easy. It's the FFPC, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. It's a $6 million prize pool. And they've had their Never Too Early Best Ball leagues cranking since February. So the FFPC is the answer to so many questions. Hey, where's the best place to get a Dynasty Orphan? Well, you can adopt a Dynasty Orphan at the FFPC. That's why we partner with them. If you want to play fantasy football for low, medium, high stakes, seasonal, best ball, dynasty, go to the FFPC. And don't forget, promo code Underworld to get you $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team, no matter what team it is, no matter what format it is, at the FFPC. Go do it.
Back here on The Deep End, Mike Shope and Adam Krautwurst, bringing in one of the sharpest guys in the game when it comes to the draft. Cody Carpentier with us, NFL draft analyst for our own very player profiler. Cody, how's life?
I'm doing well, fellas. I want to first congratulate and thank and welcome you guys to the Player Profiler Podcast Network. It's I think this is episode 2 of The Deep End. It's pretty awesome. I appreciate you guys coming on here, and I thank you for inviting me to come on The Deep End again this year. I remember coming on last year, so I hope both of you are well. I'm doing pretty good myself.
That's a sick hat, Cody. You got to send me one. Where do I find one of those hats? Okay,
this is a 1 of 2 right here. This is
I knew you were going to say that.
As long as it's 1 of 2, not 2 of 2, is how it's numbered. You want to have the first one if you can. Well, this is your. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to speak for you, but maybe your favorite time of year.
Oh, 100%. It's not even close. It's really, the grind in the season. One of my big things in the season is I work with I manage the charting team. So we have like 70 guys that chart throughout the season for the data that goes on the site. And we grind and grind and grind through that. And then the minute that kind of ends, which is like week 18, I'm like, draft season. And it's just like this, late December until the draft is my favorite time of year, 100%.
It's been pretty newsy, right? I mean, you always have guys who don't work at the combine, but the quarterback developments in this offseason and the running back pool seems so deep. I think from on WGR, talking to different draft analysts, Cody, a pretty wide range of opinions when it comes to wide receivers, and you have interesting tight ends. So favorite time of year, and this is a good year to have this, this affliction or whatever, this obsession with the draft, because there's so much news and interesting developments here lately.
100%. And that's the thing is, I listen to a lot of podcasts, as I'm sure you do. I know you're on the radio, and it's like you hear everyone's different opinions, and they're like, well, this class isn't as good as last class. Oh, this class is better than this class at this position, whatever. It's like every class is going to be different than the last or the next in some form or fashion, right? Like, obviously the top end of this receiving class is not of what the last 3 classes have been. Obviously, like there's no Chase, there's no Jefferson. We're pretty sure Jackson Smith-Njigba is really good himself, but he's a different type of receiver. And after that, it's kind of a fall off, or it kind of drops off. And the sizing of the class, the depth in different areas, the running back class, we love the depth there, but it's tough not being inside of a team, because a lot of people inside the team may have a different view on these running backs, because after you get through these top 3-4 guys, I think it's a dealer's choice. It's a la carte, whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, Adam and I have each prepared 3 rookies to throw at you here, like perfect landing spot kind of ideas. And within that, let's talk about what we think is likeliest to happen in the draft. I put in 3 names. Adam put in 3 names. Neither of us picked Bijan Robinson. I don't think this conversation is complete unless we spend at least one question on him. What is your best case scenario for Bijan Robinson?
Best case scenario for Bijan Robinson from a fantasy perspective would be, obviously goes round 1. That's a given, right? And people want to point to the Eagles. I don't think Howie Roseman's going to do that. The Falcons have talked about wanting multiple backs. So see what the conversation's at. It's, ideal. It's like a top 10, top 12, right? Because then he's going to get that workload. But the teams up there, the Eagles, we're pretty sure they're not going to give a guy 300 touches. The Falcons are pretty sure they're not going to get 300 touches. The interesting one would be what Tennessee is doing, because Tennessee, I think, is holding a lot of things close to their chest right now. They're getting a lot of flack from across the league. They should be rebuilding. Well, I don't think Rand Carthen, I don't think Mike Vrabel want to rebuild. So, if there was a world where Derrick Henry did depart, if there was a world where Ryan Tannehill did depart and they completely reset this thing, Tennessee is a very, very, very interesting one. I think for Bijan Robinson, one at the combine, talking to some people that are, working for NFL Network, they said, don't be surprised if Bill Belichick pulls that card at pick 14. No. One of my favorite ones, though, I think is Dallas. And Dallas has been one that's much more discussed. That is obviously Pollard is there. They bring in Ronald Jones. But and I've said this multiple times, but the ultimate power move, obviously what we've known the last 5, 6, 7 years with Zeke being in Dallas, that's the big money. The big money ticket is this big running back that they're going to feed him. It's feed Zeke season, whatever. There would be nobody else can top what Zeke was to Dallas than Bijan going from Austin, Texas to Dallas. You would be instantly the number 1 selling jersey in the NFL. So I would say Tennessee or Dallas would be my 2 favorite landing spots for Bijan.
Yeah, I love that Dallas point. I completely agree with you. That would be so much fun to have him there. Bijan, for me, I'd like to see him there. And I think I'd like to see any talented running back go to Miami too. I just feel like with the coaching staff there, it would be just give them more weapons, because they know exactly what they're doing with them down there.
Bijan to Dallas would break the draft. Just break fantasy. Everybody would just lose it if that happened. Finally, relief, Cody, from Tony Pollard is actually good. We finally all just sort of Dallas got there, I guess, indirectly, and then we go right back into Bijan
right
Robinson.
back into it.
Right back into it. Pollard should demand a trade by Friday if that happens. All right, Adam. So I know we both put a lot of time into this. 3 rookies. I'm curious, how you came up with your list too. But why don't you tell us sort of what your thinking was? We're trying to pick landing spots that we're excited about, or what might be optimal, and then get into your first guy.
Yeah, it's hard to know with these mock drafts, and you look and you try to project yourself and figure out what teams, especially when you're doing like dynasty drafts, right? You want to try to kind of figure that out to kind of get an edge there. But I was thinking of like some kind of fun players here, and Quentin Johnston to me is a fun guy. He's a guy who I think has maybe the highest upside in this draft class, but also maybe, and Cody can correct me here, but also might be one of the bigger bust guys too. Outside X receiver. I would love to see him go to and I know everyone says stuff like this, I'd love to see him go to the Baltimore Ravens. I'd love to see them go all in on some more weapons. I know they've been linked to Odell Beckham. You could still do both. You can do Beckham and Johnston. I love the idea of Johnston there. make Lamar maybe a little bit more happy and get that nice elite outside receiver with him. They can move Bateman all over the place. I love Bateman so much, but Bateman can be moved around. He was scoring on slant routes out of the slot last year. So Johnston to me is a guy that I think they should go get and pair up with Lamar, try to keep him there.
But Cody, before you speak, I want to throw in mine, and maybe we can do this way where we both tell you our ideas for landing spots, and then you can, state your preference or whether we're way off. I went Carolina for him. Maybe that's not perfect for his fantasy value, certainly as a rookie, but they need a number one. That'd be pick 39 without trades. And that, I don't know, you'll tell us, but is that maybe possible for Johnston, or will he definitely be gone by there? I like him for the Panthers. Okay, take it. What do you think?
One, I want to say, Adam, you're not happy with Nelson Aguilar out there?
No, not at all.
Slander.
No, for real though. Yeah, I think Baltimore obviously would be an ideal landing spot as far as Baltimore goes. They need the weapons. Like, you can't just rely another season going with Devin Duvernay and Tylan Wallace is there, James Prochet. Like, you got to start bringing something in. And DaCosta said that at the combine, and Rashad Bateman kind of clapped back at him. But yeah, I do think they go after receiver. I think that Quentin would be a guy that fits well in Baltimore. And I'm very interested to see kind of what happens with this Lamar thing, because I think regardless, whichever direction it is, I think if he does go there, I think you're going to see a free agent want to go there. If he leaves, I don't know what's going to happen with Baltimore. So I like that landing spot. Carolina, you brought up, it's a very interesting one. I looked at that one. And the only reason I would say maybe I'm not sure he's going to be there at 39. I do think they would maybe have to move up for him because I think he's going to be a first-round pick. But it's interesting what they said back in – Scott Fitterer said at the Combine about Terrace Marshall, because me and Alex Dunlap went around and asked these GMs like these questions that the local media don't care about. What's Kenny Gainwell going to do this year? What's Terrace Marshall going to do? And they're very excited about Terrace Marshall. And then they go and bring in Chark and Thielen. So I'm interested to see kind of what they're doing. They obviously have a better receiving core, I would say, today than Baltimore does. But I do think bringing in a Quentin would only continue to light that fire under Terrace Marshall. And if they bring in obviously CJ Stroud number one overall, I think that would only bolster the core. And having four good receivers, I know Thielen's aging, but I hadn't really dove into that thought process. But now that you said it, I don't mind that as much, obviously, because we haven't really seen what we wanted to see out of Terrace so far. So I think I would lean Baltimore just because of the targets as far as fantasy goes, but the Carolina one's interesting from a team building standpoint because that would give them the optimal package of weapons, especially at the receiving position for CJ Stroud.
I've been drafting Marshall, and in a lot of these drafts where you end up with one of the rookies and Stroud is still the favorite there, you take your best guess as to what the stack might look like. All right, we'll give round one to Adam. Good, because that was his guy. You'd hate to lose your serve right away.
That's right.
In this game. My first guy was Anthony Richardson. Maybe this is going to be obvious or maybe not, but I feel like Indianapolis is a team in good or great position to come down with Richardson, especially if he doesn't go one. We'll see what happens with Arizona's pick. But the new coach coming over from Philadelphia who had Hurts. The question I guess I have about the Colts in terms of whether they're up for this, Cody, is are they sure enough in their own skin? Like, is the GM safe enough? Can they have, I guess, this is maybe a stereotype, but some degree of or amount of patience with Richardson to let him sort of grow into the job? That's the question. How much urgency is there with Indianapolis? Adam, do you have a thought on Richardson?
Yeah, I mean, I think any team that doesn't have a franchise quarterback should always just take another quarterback, right? So I think any of those spots that you named could work for sure. Indy would be nice. I just want a coaching staff and again, a lot of these coaches up at the top here we don't know about, right? Because they all got fired, so now it's all brand new coaches. Like, what are they willing to do? I just want a coach that's going to let the player be the player. I know they had to develop. Richardson is his reading defenses and all that type of stuff, but he's so big, he's so strong. Let him use his athleticism as well while he learns that. So. I mean, Houston, Arizona, Houston had the coaching staff coming over from San Francisco, where they had Trey Lance had some experience there with the running quarterback. So yeah, I just want a team that's going to let him run. So Houston or Arizona, I think would be fine with me.
Houston's one I had on my list. I think Houston, Indianapolis. Obviously, Indianapolis needs a quarterback. The patience thing you bring up is interesting because it's perceived, and I think it is, that it's going to take Anthony Richardson at least a year, maybe a year and a half, as it should. But when you're talking about fantasy perspective, if Houston goes Richardson at 2, I have flashbacks and thoughts of Justin Fields, right? And that is, I think you drop Anthony Richardson day 1 in Houston, and there's not a ton of talent around him. I think he easily, and this is a strong word here, he easily rushes for 1,200 yards in year 1 at the quarterback position in Houston, just because there's not enough talent around him to really elevate, and they're not going to win 6 games, even as good as he is, right? It's going to kind of be like Justin Fields last year, running for his life. They got a good offensive line, good, but I think that's an interesting one, especially for fantasy. One that I did have written down here for AR was Houston and then Detroit. Detroit, I think, would be optimal for him. For him, I think that is the best case scenario because you get to go in there with Goff, and Goff is kind of close to that Alex Smith level, I would say, where he's going to teach him, right? Alex Smith taught Patrick Mahomes for that full season. If they could possibly get Richardson to Detroit, I think that Goff would bring Richardson on enough, and I think Goff would end up earning himself, or regardless, I think he's still going to have a job over the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years, however long he wants to stay in the NFL. Goff's going to have a job, but Richardson would be the one that could take this Detroit team to the next level with the talent that's around him, with Jameson, Amon-Ra, and Swift and Montgomery. So I think Houston's very interesting. I think for fantasy, that's definitely the A1 steak sauce spot. Yeah.
And you think Houston, that is at least realistic enough that they wouldn't pick Young at 2?
That's the thing, is like I as a team builder, being smart, you probably would have to be, and this is also a thing where you have to understand where your team is at. I think that they're a couple years away still, so I wouldn't draft a quarterback regardless, but it kind of just all what their mold is. If they want to go and be a pocket passing team, you're going to get Bryce Young. But if they want to be, if they want to go after the Fields type of offense, if they want to go after the Lamar Jackson type of offense, it's all kind of what they want. And everything we've heard so far has been Bryce Young. But they also do have that 12 pick overall. So, we've seen teams trade. They trade out of 2. They do this, they do that. Richardson ends up falling. Boom, he's there at 12. Like that would be something that I could definitely see.
Is that where they picked Watson at 12? Maybe that's right, that year, the Mahomes year also.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's all Adam Krautwurst. That's good. He's not feeling well. He's at the lobster roll. He's underwater. We want to see Adam do well. All right, so next up, we go to Adam's list, and we have, I only think I'm pronouncing this right because the highlights sounded like this, but Devon Achane, running back, Devon Achane. Adam, what are you thinking?
I'm so happy you said it because I didn't know how to pronounce it either. I was hoping Cody would correct me, but Achane, yes. I love him, man. He's a guy that as soon as I started watching tape, man, this guy, his speed just pops off the screen at you. And so it's another one. This was, I know we were talking about Bijan earlier, but this is a guy that I have mocked to the Miami Dolphins to just add more speed. They love fast running backs. They love team speed. The things that they could do with him there. He's not going to be that workhorse back, right? I don't think he has the size for it, but I think you put him in a committee backfield where his job is to they can get him in space, and he can make people miss. I love the idea of the Miami Dolphins. And again, Carolina was my other team. I feel like Carolina, you could mock everybody. Carolina, they just need everything there. So it's like quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end. So, but Carolina's my other one. But I really like the idea of him to Miami. I think it could be realistic too.
I think Carolina is kind of fun. Compliment to Sanders. I picked Denver, small and fast. Questions about Javonte Williams. I mean, I'm not sure he's exactly Achane, exactly Sean Payton's type, but see, you could be talking about round 4 for these running backs, acquired taste. And a guy like that, it's not great for fantasy. Anybody picked on Saturday, but a compliment. If Williams doesn't start the season, somebody's going to be there with Samaje Perine, and maybe it's this kind of role, or not so much role as skill set here, speed. with Achane. So Denver's my call. Cody.
I don't, as I say, I think Javante's kind of in that J.K. Dobbins type of thing from last year where it's going to be a tough scene to see him playing this year. So I don't think that Samaje Perine is going to be their guy that they're going to just roll out with for a planned 8 weeks. Tony Jones after that, no. I think Devon Achane would be a great compliment to Samaje Perine in Denver just because of that speed that he brings to the table. It's a different element. Yes, I think he would fit great in the Miami and the San Francisco scheme. I think that's pretty obvious. I think either one of those spots would be great. San Francisco, obviously, now they have McCaffrey. That's tough. But I think as far as looking for opportunities as quick as possible, what Devon Achane can bring to the table, I hadn't thought of Denver. I like Denver. I'm going to go Denver here because that exact thing, that's the usage that you're looking for day one. And yeah, we don't know. We've heard round 2, we've heard round 3, we've heard round 4. And consensus right now, I think Achane, he's down to 4th in the order. At one point, he was moving up towards number 2 with Gibbs with a projected ADP of 61 in the NFL draft right now. So I'm going to go Denver here just because of early opportunity. And I was just on a show with my friend Noah Hills from BDGE. He has Devon Achane as his running back 2. I'm not that quite hot on him, but I think the speed is there. And if he's given the right opportunity with an offensive-minded coach like Sean Payton, the comps everyone wants to run with, which is obviously the high end as possible, is the CJ Spillers, the Chris Johnsons, and these guys. But my comp was Phillip Lindsay, and Phillip Lindsay was in Denver, and Phillip Lindsay had that speed, and he kind of had the tight lower half, and he was a game changer, really, with the speed that he had. So I'm going to go Denver here. I like that. That's one that I had not thought of, but I think that it would instantly vault him in these rookie drafts early, only because you're getting that year one output 100%, I think, next to Perine. And I think it seems like as a industry or whatever, the fantasy community is much more alert to this Javonte Williams thing this year than we were of J.K. Dobbins last year. So it wouldn't shock me at all if Devon goes to Denver. I like that.
All right, back in it. Now I'm not going to say hardly anything because my next guy is Will Levis, and I just do not want to, get this wrong because we know Cody is very high on Will Levis. I went Minnesota, using some maybe a little bit stereotypical kind of thoughts like development, play behind somebody, and that's a scenario where, barring a trade, he lasts for a while. I've been thinking that these quarterbacks will all go very early. Of course, again, in this scenario, that is not what is likely to happen. But Levis, huge ceiling, Cousins winding down. For me, the Vikings. Adam.
Yeah, I like him to, a couple of teams kind of in the middle here. Listen, we've been drawing Josh Allen comparisons, and I just want to stop it right there. Okay, enough with the Josh Allen. Okay, one of one. Speaking of one of one, one of one, Cody. But I like Tennessee. I like New England. New England, it's interesting with them is they've always talked about, they hate defending against the mobile quarterback. Belichick's always talked about how difficult it is, which surprises me that he took the most. He had a guy that couldn't move for 20 years in Tom Brady, and then he took another one that can't move back there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they take another shot at a quarterback that can actually move. So. I kind of like Tennessee. I kind of like Green Bay. I like one of these teams, or even a team to jump up from maybe, the back end of the first round is a guy that they can let sit behind their starter for a couple of years.
Neither you guys don't sound very high on Will Levis.
Who are you higher on? Are you higher on Levis or Richardson?
I'm higher on Levis.
Okay.
It's for fantasy purposes, year one, I'm higher on Richardson because I think if we're talking optimal landing spots, if I put both these guys in their optimal landing spots, I think that Richardson gives you more in year one, 100%. I think Levis is definitely I wouldn't say a long play, I'd say a mid play because I think we've seen multiple guys like this. Even you referenced Josh, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields. They all take a little bit of time. Jalen Hurts took a little bit of time. They're all going to take. I think that's what kind of the realm that Levis plays in with the strong arm. He does have athleticism, but I think Richardson upside is there. You bring up Tennessee. I think Tennessee's very interesting. Again, we talked about them earlier. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're holding everything really close to their chest as they should. The Lance stuff came out a couple months ago when Rand Carthen went to Tennessee. Do they keep Derrick? Do they keep Ryan Tannehill? What's the move here? They need some weapons outside. Who did you bring up? You brought up the Vikings, right, Mike?
Vikings, yeah.
Vikings is one where obviously they have it out with Cousins next year. So you could look at it in the same term, like I brought up with Richardson going and playing behind Goff and just kind of make him take that job. The thing with Cousins, he just gets so much cash. I would love that as a Vikings fan if Levis went there, obviously, because I like Levis, I like the Vikings. But actually, my favorite land spot, I think my most optimal would be Indianapolis. And the reason I'm going Indianapolis, you brought up Indianapolis earlier with Richardson, it's that Shane Steichen since 2016 was the quarterback coach and then the offensive coordinator with the Chargers. Justin Herbert, 6'6", 237 pounds, 64% completion percentage in college. And then Shane Steichen was the offensive coordinator with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, 6'1", 222, 65% completion percentage in college. Who is sitting there? Will Levis, 6'3", 222, fits both those molds and threw for 64% in college. I think that if somebody, and I was afraid of this, I was talking to Matty Key, my buddy at Player Profiler, I was like, if Levis goes to Houston, it feels like it's the David Carr thing. I'm dead. I'm dead in the water with Will Levis in Houston. But if he goes to Indianapolis, I think I'm sitting at the mountaintop and I'm screaming. And so I think I'd go Indianapolis. But if he's going to sit behind somebody, I'd definitely like to have him sit behind Kirk Cousins, definitely with those weapons.
Yeah, I think the chat agrees with you, Cody. They think Will Levis is going to Indy. So
Let's go.
Seth and the hairy snowman are talking about it. So yeah, that would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
I think I have made a mistake in this process in more trying to predict the draft than do optimal landing spots. I was off today. Maybe it was different today, but thinking that sort of Houston's taken care of, maybe not. Indianapolis is taken care of, maybe not. Adam's talking about Arizona. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So optimal landing spots really means just that. And so Adam wins on ties if it ends up that way. All right, your third and final guy with Cody Carpentier here talking about rookies and optimal landing spots. Mike Shope, Adam Krautwurst on the deep end. This is a fun one. Darnell Washington. Adam.
Yeah, I love Darnell Washington. 11-inch hands or something like that, like impossible. Guy's making one-handed catches. He is another offensive lineman, right? He's a super good blocker. I think Cody can correct me on that. I love him to a spot. And you tried to, I almost gave it up earlier here when we were talking about Zylstra. But I love the Lions for him. I love they take old linemen in the draft and they start chest bumping in the war room. So the fact that they need tight end, they can get a tight end that blocks like an offensive lineman. I'm trying to see what picks they have. I think they have 18. Well, they have 6, 18, and then 48. I'm thinking maybe 18 might be a little expensive, but 48, if they can get him there, I think that would be a sensational play for them. I'd love him in Buffalo, to be honest with you, but they just extended Knox, and I don't think that's going to happen. But him to the Lions, I think would be really awesome. I don't know if it'll happen, though, because they just traded away Hockenson. Like, why would you do that? But maybe, who knows? Maybe Hockenson wasn't as good of a blocker as they wanted him to be. So I say I like him, Darnell Washington, to the Lions.
I'm excited to hear Cody talk about this player. I'll just say Miami. We've talked about Miami a couple different times. They brought back all their running backs. They've got their core there, I think, with Tua, Hill, and Waddle, of course. That was prolific. And they let Gesicki just walk, didn't really do much with him anyway. So the question for me is is he Washington? I mean, as a rookie, who knows with tight end, but is he somebody that would fit into what they do? And I don't know, but what another piece they could have. Goal line, I mean, just if he turns out, and the blocker that he is too, money. So I'll say Dolphins.
100%. And I don't want to, I'm 100% in line with this Miami Dolphins one. And I think Detroit's a good fit just because obviously it's Brock Wright and James Mitchell right now, but I'm all in on Miami. We've heard Green Bay. I think Vegas makes sense with Waller's departure and Foster Moreau. But Miami, man, they've literally come out and said how important blocking is. And we've seen it with George Kittle. Yes, he's been banged up, but how important that blocking is in this scheme in San Francisco. And they bring it over to Miami, and McDaniel says, yeah, I talked to Mike Gesicki and he said that he's good with blocking because he knows he's going to have his big games. Mike Gesicki left because Mike Gesicki can't block, and because he's a wide receiver he's a tight end in a wide receiver's body, whatever. And I think you bring Darnell in there, and Darnell is a massive human. I went down to the Georgia Pro Day, massive human. He did underperform, I think, through the whole pre-draft process, but I do think that makes him available in the early second. I think a lot of these tight ends are going to slip further than people think they will. Just with some conversations at the combine, the way that the executives that I talked to kind of explain the tight end position was, if you just look back at the last 6-7 years, the 10 years actually at the hit rate at tight end, teams are more so starting to look at, like we've seen running back turn into more of a second, third round thing. Tight ends are starting to look at as a second, third, fourth round thing for these franchises. So Darnell to Miami, I think is a slam dunk landing spot. And I mean that in one sense, that I think that he is the Shaquille O'Neal of football playing tight end, because I think Darnell is a guy, you're looking at him 6'8" with a wingspan. It was cool to see, really. I think my favorite part and why I like that Shaq comp is watching Stetson Bennett, and you can have your opinions on Bennett, how he plays, whatever. Going to that pro day and watching him put footballs at like the rim, like 9'3", and it's like, okay, I know only Darnell's going to catch that football, and he puts it in the perfect spot, and it's like, okay, you can put him in the red zone against anybody, and there is a nobody. Byron Jones maybe coming out of the combine maybe could have maybe touched it. Tariq Woolen maybe could have touched it, but Darnell Washington's going to be a complete mismatch, I think, down there. And then you bring up the blocking thing as well. Like, that's obviously what Miami wants. And there's teams that wanted to look at him as a tackle. So I think that'll only make him slip a little bit further. But as far as fantasy goes, as far as best landing spot, I do think 100% Miami, just because of what they want. And that's a good blocking tight end and then a massive mismatch.
Miami sits at pick 51. Having forfeited its first-round pick. We'll see what they can make work. Hope it happens. One more. Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. My question is going to be whether this is possible, but Kansas City, like, there are certain teams that are just put everybody on Buffalo, put everybody on Kansas City, put everybody in Philadelphia. Like, I feel like he is the skill set that I've read that he has, you'll know more, is like on a team with Patrick Mahomes that really doesn't have wide receiver figured out. So I don't think they pick a running back with the last pick of round 1 this year, Zay Flowers, but will he be there? I talked to Brett Coleman, analyst yesterday, the film room on WGR, and he's like, no way. He's not getting past New England at 14. So, all right, well, there goes that. But I like the Chiefs. Adam.
Yeah, I like the Bills for Flowers. I love him. I think he's great. I think, again, we've been talking about this for the last couple of years since we've been doing this podcast, Mike, is how the league kind of is trending towards these smaller, quicker route running, run after catch type guys. Quentin Johnston's like the only big time alpha in this draft, like the outside X receiver. So yeah, I like him. I'm not worried about the size. I mean, again, it might cap his ultimate upside, but I think you put a guy like him with a good offense and a good quarterback. Kansas City's fine. I think Buffalo's fine. Philly doesn't need him. We're kind of looking at teams here at the end. Philly doesn't need him. Cincinnati doesn't need him. But yeah, I like Buffalo or Kansas City. I'll go with the Bills.
All right, Cody.
I think I'm in line with Coleman. What Coleman said. I've been a big fan of Zay Flowers for a minute now, and he's done everything great through this entire process. I got him at wide receiver 2 right now, ahead of Quentin Johnston, who's, like I said before, I think he's done a few things wrong through the process, i.e. say you're going to run faster than you are, come in, the weight's different, all this different stuff. But Zay is about as good as it gets for what his body type is. He's got a smaller frame, but I think he's got elite ball skills. I think he's a professional route runner. I had him comparable to Jalen Waddle. Buffalo, Kansas City, I think would be beautiful landing spots when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to output, when it comes to upside, because there's clear need in both of those places, obviously inside of Stephon Diggs and Kansas City. I mean, you put anybody there and they're going to excel. But I think that what Coleman said, he's going to be gone by 14 with New England. That's pretty rich, but I don't think that's far off. I think that's right in that same ballpark. I look at Houston. I look at Seattle. I think the Chargers are a floor. He brings up New England. I think, yeah, that's a good spot, but I think the Chargers are a floor. I like Houston. That Brandon Cooks rolls wide open down there. Who else did I say? I said Seattle. Seattle was the one that I think is a little bit of a sleeper spot. When they have 2 first-round picks. One is at 5 and one is at 20. So we've seen Seattle do a lot of things in the past, which is mostly move down. If they were to move down from 5 and say get to 12, 11, whatever, maybe they go down to 11 with a Tennessee move up. 11, you're sitting there and Zay's on the clock. You also have pick 20, and there's some edge rushers that'll fall down there. They need edge. Miles Murphy might be there at 20. You're sitting at 11. Zay Flowers is on the clock. Why wouldn't you want to add Zay Flowers inside of DK and Tyler Lockett, who's aging? Oh, baby, I would love that.
All right. Well, I'm sorry we don't have 20 more, but you've given us a lot of time already. Thank you, Cody. The draft is coming up April 27th in Kansas City. Do you get to go to the draft?
Yes, we will be there, boots on the ground. We'll have the content house this year. Last year we went to Vegas, and there was, I think, 6 of us. Podfather included, Nate Liss and Alex Dunlap and Anand Naduri. And this year I think there's going to be like a dozen of us. So, yes, we'll be boots on the ground, Kansas City, producing the content for the fine people. Very
nice. See you in Canton or no?
Yes, sir, 100%.
All right, good. Can't wait. Adam?
Love it. Yeah, can't wait. Maybe I'll get are you playing flag football again this year, Cody, or what?
Hey, yes, sir.
Let's go. Mike and I are putting a squad together. So
yes, machine. Love it. Cody, thanks a lot. Really, really good stuff. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys as always. Have a great one.
Thanks, Cody.
Cody Carpentier, player profiler on the deep end tonight. Well, advantage push, as the great Nick McKay would say. I would say,
what a comeback! I thought I was about to win 3-2, and you had a comeback at the end there.
You never know in sports. All right. Hey, before we go, I showed you that draft board early on, and Adam and I talked about it. That's from last night. You know, we're both maniacs at this stuff, and you can find us almost anywhere. Adam did more than 100 baseball drafts on Underdog, so we don't slow down. Adam, like where are you right now? Are you in the Fantasy Pros Championship space? Are you on Underdog? The Superflex thing opened up. Are you laying low? What with the draft coming up 3 weeks away, some of these slow drafts might end up straddling that, or almost. Maybe if we start next week, that could happen. So, what's your overall plan right now?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Those slow drafts that kind of are involved during the NFL draft. But yeah, like you said, I maxed out the Underdog baseball, so that took quite a bit of time and kind of effort there. And plus, I think that's kind of the perfect time to do it because it's hard for me to really wrap my head around. I know it's all kind of we're kind of throwing darts here at this point in the season because we don't even know what receivers are going where, and the draft is going to affect so much when it comes to. And there's still some free agents out there that are available, so that can affect everything. So I was kind of holding off for a little bit of football. Obviously, I'm involved in the dynasty, and I did a couple of Underdog best balls, so that always keeps me good. But once this NFL draft hits, man, I'm going to be in the player profiler championship over at the FFPC. I'm going to be hitting it hard. I usually like to get in the first one of those every year, but it snuck up so quick. They announced like the day that it opened. I wasn't ready. Usually it opens. Usually I'm in the first one like the day after the first round of the NFL draft. So, but yeah, that's what I'll be diving into once the NFL draft hits, is that player profiler championship over on FFPC.
Most of what I'm doing now is trying to tinker with dynasty draft position. Read the league, who's got what do you have? Are you in a place where you want to trade up, trade down? I think we talked about this last week, maybe the back half of the first round is pretty convoluted right now with what could happen in the NFL draft. You got to plant your flag, and if players like Johnston or Achane that we talked about, Charbonnet, some of these guys somehow, not that they all would, but go well into Friday or onto day 3. It happens every year. I mean, there are surprises like that. And, most fantasy or dynasty leagues are drafting after the draft, some immediately after, but beforehand, if you think you might, this is like what always matters. If you think you want to predict what's coming and figure out how to maneuver with your team, your roster, your draft picks based on that. And I think, it just feels a little bit to me like the back half of round 1 could be all over the place in dynasty drafts right now. So I don't really want to be in there, right? I'll trade up, and I know who I'm getting, Smith and Jigba, Gibbs, those guys. I can sort of lock in one of those players. That's what I want to predict. Otherwise, push me back around next year, depending on the roster, things like that. So that's what most of my time is. But these little whimsical drafts like last night happened too. And I hope that some of you who watch and listen to us raise your hand if you ever see us in there. We'd love to know that we're playing against guys that have watched the show. It's not so bad. If we get too big at them, then you'd hate to be playing against viewers because they know all your moves. But I'm not worried about that.
No, that's fun. Everyone's so super sharp now. There's just so many. All the edges that we used to have are gone now because there's podcasts and there's just so much good information out there from really smart people who've had a lot of success. And I always stress to people, find the analysts that have had success playing fantasy football. Billy and Theo being two of the absolute kind of benchmarks there. They're analysts, but they've also won at the highest levels. So definitely this is the place to be.
Well, exciting to be back with you, Adam, and everybody on the deep end tonight. I was at the Great Wolf Lodge. I got the badge to prove it today. This is my room key over in Canada today. My family's all still there, but felt like I can come home, host the deep end, let the dog out, just check on the house, and then in a matter of moments, I'll decide whether to go back up for the night. But cool place. Anyway.
What a life.
Oh, baby. What a life. Thank you, Adam. Glad you're feeling a little bit better. Thanks to Cody Carpentier. Thanks to Matt and everybody at Player Profiler, Billy, Theo, and the guys there. Super team. We're very excited to be a part of it. We'll be with you each Tuesday night, 9 Eastern, YouTube, Spotify. Week 1 was a little bit, lots of people trying to figure out what to do. We'll get that there. I had a couple of questions like, where's the show? We'll get that better and make sure you can find us in a lot of different places with episode 2, this one. So with that, enjoy the rest of your night. Mike and Adam, thanks for watching and listening. This is The Deep End. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Hey, you like that video? Be sure to subscribe and activate those alerts so you get notified as soon as new videos drop. And be sure to check out playerprofiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.